even when she's caught red-handed, she's just like, oh, hey, you never said I couldn't come at night. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the Beleaguered Author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher and I am just another struggling writer. Today I am doing a review of Starling House by Alix E. Harrow. And I'm going to be upfront with you guys, I was not a fan, so if you liked the book and want to protect your peace, now would be a good time to check out. If you like the book and want to continue on, just a reminder that me not liking this book does not say anything about you, and you liking this book does not say anything about me. It just means that we have different tastes, and that's okay. So like I said, I was not a fan of this book. I would actually go so far as to say that I hated it. I wanted to DNF it around the 50% mark, but I had already committed to doing a review of it, and I had just DNF'd another book, and I didn't feel great about DNFing another one right after, and it's a new release. There are just a lot of things going into it, so I convinced myself to push through, and I did. I finished it technically, but a lot of the last third of it I was really just skimming. So I've got the gist of the plot down, but I'm probably not solid on the details of that final third. But that's okay, because like I said, by the 50% mark, I already knew that I hated this book and it was not for me. And the primary reason for that is the main character, Opal. So in this story, we follow Opal, who is living a kind of hand-to-mouth existence in this kind of rundown coal town in Kentucky. And all she wants to do in life is just provide for herself and her younger minor brother, who she has custody of. Her life kind of gets turned around when she is unexpectedly offered a house cleaning position at this spooky manor in town that has a legendary mythos surrounding it. From there, everything that she has ever known about the town, the house, and her own life gets turned on its head. Unfortunately, Opal is just a shitty person, and not in a way that was compelling for me. She is a compulsive liar and is proud of the fact that she comes up with lies really easily and has them at the ready and won't tell the truth even when there's no reason for the lying. She just lies because it's just her natural state of lying, and that is such a pet peeve of mine. In fact, no character in this book was ever really honest with each other at any point. If you don't like the miscommunication trope, this book is going to drive you insane, because it's not just miscommunication, it is outright willfully deceiving one another for no fucking reason. And Opal is the worst of them all, because not only is she a compulsive liar, she's also just really, really terrible to everyone around her. And she kind of justifies this by blaming her upbringing with this kind of transient mother who raised them out of a hotel room, and that she has to lie, cheat, and steal for money to feed herself and her brother. And she makes this big deal throughout the book of having these two lists, one with the things that she needs and one with the things that she wants, and that she keeps the things on the first list limited, and then she throws away the second list. So I can kind of understand being less scrupulous when it comes to how you get paid and what you have to do to earn money and company you keep. I get all that, but the thing with Opal is that her life has kind of completely eroded any moral character that she once had. But the book doesn't say this. This is just a fact about her. I don't know if the book was implying this, but it was definitely inferred by me, because she is such a shitty person. She is at all times willfully lying or keeping important information from her brother, the person that she claims to love most. She actively guilt tripped him at one point, saying, "Everything I've done was for you," which is extremely manipulative and almost abusive to say that, especially since she implied that she had used that line before on him when they were at odds. And it's just like, wow, that's shitty. And this is a minor spoiler for about the middle, the first part of the middle part of the book, but the proprietor of this manor that she's working at, his name is Arthur, and shortly after she starts working there, she's contacted by this kind of shadowy firm who is just looking for details on Arthur and the inside of the house, because it's very mysterious and whatever. And at first she resists them, but she pretty quickly caves to under the minimal amount of pressure to take clandestine photos and sneak out little bits of information about the house to these people. And Arthur catches on pretty quickly and says, "Hey, I'm not blaming you for, I don't like that they're threatening you. So if they contact you again, just let me know or I'll help you. And just please don't send them any more information. And guess what? She just fucking ignores that and she just goes on ahead and does it because she has these lists, but like without even saying, hey, heads up, they contacted me again, or by the way, they're threatening my brother, or I'm perceiving that they're threatening my brother. Do you know anything about that? Or can you do anything about that? Or can you help me? Or maybe I should stop working here. Nope, she just goes on and does it. And it just carries on and carries on until it reaches the natural conclusion of she's breaking into the house in the middle of the night and specifically trying to access a place that was strictly off limits. And no consequences really occur from that. That was really the reason I wanted to stop reading the book, is because I did not feel at that point that anything Opal did in the latter part of the book was going to make up for that transgression. It was such a deep betrayal for me as a reader that she would do something so horrible and she at no point during all of this, even when she's caught red-handed, say, hey, by the way, I'm doing this because of these people again, and they threatened me and all this stuff. She just makes up some fucking excuse because she can't stop lying. Can't stop lying about, like, even when she's caught red-handed, she's just like, oh, hey, you never said I couldn't come at night. At that point, I was just like, I can't do this. I don't want to read any more about this because I just knew that she was never going to satisfy me as a protagonist. I ended up being right. Like, it just gets worse from there. I pushed through just to say that I finished it. The other part I really didn't love about this book was like the other main thrust of it, which was the fantasy elements, wherein this house, there's like this lore about beasts coming up from under the house or something, and whoever lives in the house has to protect the world from the beasts coming out of it or something. I just don't feel like that was very well done at all. I felt like we focused way too much on Opal's interpersonal issues and her character flaws and the interaction with her and the house and Arthur, who she has this romance with, which felt really bad because it was almost like Arthur liked her because she's the only woman he's had contact with, or like because of this weird connection they have to the house and all this stuff. I never got the sense that Opal liked him, other than the fact that he was a man and he was giving her money, and that he wasn't like overly upset with her when she betrayed him, and that's it. Like they had no chemistry, and they had like no real purpose. They didn't know anything about each other. Just bizarre and awful. So the book focused so much on those parts that it left the fantasy elements completely in the dust. And then when we got to it close to the end, it felt sort of pointless. There was no tension whatsoever. By that time, I cared so little for the mystery of the house and the wardens who had to live there and stave off the beasts or whatever, and where the beasts came from. There's also like this creepy book that the original owner of the house had written, and that was like the source of all these myths about the beasts and everything. I didn't care about any of that. It just didn't come together as anything even remotely resembling a cohesive story for me. There are footnotes, especially in the beginning. There's lots of footnotes, but there's no reveal at the end of someone who is writing a book about the events that we're reading. It's not told in that way at all, except for the footnotes. So what were the footnotes fucking for? Weird. Just weird, like random shit. Like it just throwing so much at the wall. And yet again, we had this mysterious creepy old mansion which is sort of alive and like has its own personality, and it'll slam the door on you if it's angry at you. And I've just read too many of those, I feel like, recently for me to care about that or think it's a cute little or an interesting story element. I just don't care. I've seen it too many times. And while I did like that aspect probably the most out of all the speculative elements, it just was so rote by that point that it didn't bring anything new for me to really give a shit about it. So you've got a horrendously unlikable main character, a romance that makes zero sense, fantasy elements that are very poorly integrated and like given so little care that they're not really addressed until the climax, and a like narrative device that has no purpose or place. And that's it. It was all just a complete drag. It was one of those things where I really dreaded picking up the book and having to read it with my eyes. It was like torture. It was awful. I hated it. I hated it so much. I can't believe that Opal got away with all the shitty things that she does. I'm gonna throw up a tag for a minor spoiler here. We find out that Arthur, whose parents were killed by the beast, and that's why he inherited the house and the job as the warden, as a 13-year-old boy, we find out that he got tired of fighting one night and just threw up his hands and said, I give up. And the beasts got out and ran Opal's mother's car off the road, and that's how she died. Opal finds this out and blames him for killing her mom. He is obviously racked with guilt about this, but it's just he was just a kid literally fighting monsters with a sword and got so tired that he felt like he couldn't do it, and he saw that mistake cost someone their life, and so he's obviously got guilt over that. But it's just that's an impossible situation for a kid to be in. And Opal, who also lived several experiences that were impossible for a kid to be in, and yet she survived them and had to deal with them, and when her mom died and she had to lie about her age to get custody of her brother, that's an impossible situation for a kid to be in. But she had absolutely zero empathy, absolutely zero understanding. And even when she finally talked herself around saying, okay, I understand, it wasn't really his fault, all that stuff. Later, when they meet back up, she's still blaming him for it. She literally says, he killed my mom. And there's just what happened to realizing that he was just a kid who was put in an impossible situation and couldn't keep up with it anymore? What happened to that empathy? It just got thrown out the window. And this is the romance that we're supposed to believe in? Spoilers done. I hated it. I gave it 1 star because I couldn't find anything even remotely redeeming about it. It was like swallowing ground up glass every time I had to put my eyeballs on the page. And it got to the point, like I said, about the end of the 3rd act that I couldn't take it anymore, but I only had 60 pages left. I would read dialogue and I would turn the page, and I would read dialogue and I would turn the page, just so I could have the gist of what was going on. But at that point, I already knew that I hated it, and so the climax was not going to change my mind on that. And it didn't. It was bad. It was fine, but the issues that led up to it were not resolved and not addressed, and made worse in some cases, and so I hated it. I gave this book 1 star. I would read something else by Alix Harrow again, but I wasn't overly impressed with the writing, and the choice to include footnotes really baffled me, because when I got to the end, there was just no real firm explanation of why they were there. Even though I was skimming, I was looking for that. This one was rough. Stop it. Leave it alone. My cat is obsessed with pulling open my drawers and scooping all the clothes out and leaving them on the floor. And she doesn't even get in the drawer. She just likes to do it. And that's what she's doing right now. So that is everything from me. Please let me know down in the comments if you loved Starling House, if you hated it, or if you fell somewhere in between. As always, if you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.